Hello everyone, Shane here with Shane's Premier League review show for match week 30 of the Premier League. The early kick-off, Manchester United took on Liverpool that day. It was a tight affair. The game was really decided by two balls delivered up the park from David De Gea, and they were both met by Romelu Lukaku, and two clinical finishes from Marcus Rashford gave Manchester United the perfect start in the game, and from that Liverpool were really rattled, and they never really got a foothold in the game in the first half that day. So it took them a while to get going, and then in the second half the game evened out a little bit more. Liverpool did manage to get going somewhat, albeit they didn't score themselves. They managed to put enough pressure on the Manchester United goal to force an own goal from Manchester United's Eric Bailly, to make it a tight, tense finish at Old Trafford. But United came out on top, and for me, deservingly so. Liverpool weren't at it on the day, and yeah, I have to hold my hands up and say United were deserving winners. But a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then, as I'll cover in the rest of my review shows. As I said before, technology has let me down lately, so hence the reason I'm a little bit behind with the review show. Forgive me for that. Now on we go with the next games. West Brom took on Leicester City. This turned out to be a comfortable win for Leicester City, despite West Brom taking the lead with a good early goal from Salomon Rondon. However, after that, West Brom took over, and there were several good goals in this game, one of which notably came from Jamie Vardy, wonderful breakaway goal, and Vardy took it first time into the bottom corner, took a shot first time into the corner, so it was a brilliant goal. And then Riyad Mahrez also managed to score, along with the Kelechi Iheanacho and Vicente Abore. So it was a convincing win for the Foxes. And it plunged West Brom closer to the inevitable, as I've been saying for weeks now. So, yeah. Right, we'll move on. Newcastle took on Southampton, and Newcastle came out on top in this one with a really, really good 3-0 victory to help ease relegation fears, which they've been doing very well lately, as I'll allude to more later on in the rest of my review shows. Two goals from Kennedy gave the Magpies the perfect start. Southampton were pretty toothless in the game here, and it basically eventually led to Maurizio Pellegrino's sacking, I think, as far as I can remember. He's not in charge anyway now, folks, so it was one of his worst performances at the helm, we'll put it that way, and one of Newcastle's best of the season, really. And Matt Ritchie scored a brilliant goal to put the icing on top of the cake, excuse the pun, but it was a wonderful strike into the bottom left corner. give the Magpies a wonderful win, and plunge Southampton deeper into trouble, like West Brom. So now we'll move on. Huddersfield and Swansea City. This game ended up 0-0. The game was overshadowed by a sending off for I think it was Jordan Ayew. And Huddersfield failed to take advantage, and they played against 10 men for about 80 minutes or so. Will this result come back to haunt them at the end of the season? It could well do. I think they had over 30 attempts in the game, but they just couldn't break down a very, very resilient Swansea side. So they were excellent defending in this game, Swansea, and Huddersfield were good going forward. It just wasn't their day, and it was an intriguing encounter. But I fear for Huddersfield, to be honest, at this stage, they could be one of the teams to go down, and Swansea could stay up at Huddersfield's expense. We'll see what happens, but that's what happened in this game anyway. West Ham and Burnley. It's hard to know what to say about this game, as it was overshadowed by crowd trouble at the London Stadium. There's no place for this sort of trouble in the game whatsoever, and quite rightly, the individuals who were at fault were picked out and given lifetime bans. So fair play to the authorities for that. And as for the game itself, it was a poor West Ham performance. It wasn't helped by the crowd trouble, but generally it was poor anyway. They were okay in the first half, but they fell to pieces in the second. Burnley had a brilliant victory. Ashley Barnes and Sam Vokes came up with the goals to give the Clarets a comfortable 3-0 victory, and to increase the tension at West Ham, basically. And that's it. Burnley were very, very good on the day, from what I can remember. And fair play to them there. Right. Everton and Brighton. This ended up being a comfortable win for the Toffees. Brighton defended very well in the first half. They gave as good as they got as well. They came close as well a couple of times themselves. But in the second half, it was a different story. When Theo Walcott rose to the occasion, and he caused plenty of trouble to Brighton. Their defence. He managed to get the ball into the box, and Bong, the Brighton defender, managed to put the ball into his own net, as Walcott was in there causing trouble, and it paid dividends. And the second half largely dominated by Everton. Czech Tucson managed to score an absolute cracker of a goal. I think to pretty much, I think it could have been his second goal for Everton at this time. Correct me if I'm wrong, don't be afraid to do so. He managed to score a great goal. It hit the bar basically, came down and went in, so there was no stopping it. And Everton also managed to win a penalty, which Rooney eventually managed to miss after a great save from Matt Ryan in the Brighton goal. So 2-0 it finished to Everton. And the late game that day then was Chelsea and Crystal Palace. The first half was totally dominated by Chelsea. Crystal Palace couldn't cope. And Willian got the scoring underway with a deflected effort which went in off the post. And then just before the break at Stamford Bridge that day, Chelsea managed to grab a second through an own goal from Martin Kelly. This goal was really enforced as Chelsea just constantly bombarded the Crystal Palace goal that day in the first half, and 2-0 it was at half time. However, Crystal Palace put up a much better show in the second half, and Patrick Van Aanholt made it a nervy finish at Stamford Bridge. And if I remember rightly, Crystal Palace also had a goal ruled out wrongly for a foul. I forget who it was now at this stage who might have committed the foul, but I don't think it was a foul if memory serves me right. And the ball ended up in the Chelsea net, so it could well have been a 2-2 draw, but it wasn't, and Chelsea ended up with a rather fortuitous victory in the end. 2-1 it finished. And then on to the next day then, Arsenal took on Watford. Emerick Aubameyang scored a couple of goals, I think, along with Mkhitaryan to give the Gunners a much needed comfortable 3-0 victory to get themselves back on form in the league, back on the right road, shall we say, albeit they hadn't all their own way that day. Excuse me, sorry, Aubameyang only got one goal, and Mustafi started the scoring with a header that day, just to correct myself there. So comfortable 3-0 victory in the end. But Watford did put up a good show throughout the game. 3-0 mightn't have been a fair scoreline, maybe 3-1, that sort of thing. But Arsenal badly needed the victory at the time. So, on to Bournemouth and Spurs. Bournemouth took the lead with a goal from Stanislas. He had a chance actually before he scored. It could have been 2-0 to Bournemouth starting off, but unfortunately it was only one goal for them, and Spurs managed to get back into the game before half time with a goal from Dele Alli, and then Spurs really kicked on in the second half with 2 goals from Son Heung-min, and Serge Aurier managed to complete a comfortable 4-1 victory for them as Bournemouth pushed forward, and Spurs basically were clinical on the break that day. A good performance from them. On a sour note for Spurs, Harry Kane picked up an injury, but it was only for a couple of weeks at the time, thanks be to God, as his England's chances are on the line for the World Cup, as everybody knows. So he's back in the frame again now. But he did get injured that day, and obviously everybody feared the worst, but thanks be to God it wasn't as serious as it looked. And then the final game that weekend took place at the Britannia Stadium. Stoke took on Manchester City. It ended up being a comfortable victory for Manchester City. clinical, and they managed to pass Stoke off the park, and David Silva picked up 2 wonderful goals for them that night in a 2-0 victory. It was very, very comfortable. Stoke didn't really threaten the Manchester City goal whatsoever. They had one good chance, if I remember rightly, but that was it. And City were comfortable. 2-0 to them on the night. So that's it for match week 30. I hope you've enjoyed the review. Like and subscribe. All the best from Shane.